Hi there, Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles. So we can have another look at a great live album, and this one in particular for this artist took his career into a whole new realm. I mean, Peter Frampton, before he did Frampton Comes Alive, the album we're going to be chatting about, had been part of a group called The Herd. Didn't do much in that band. Part of Humble Pie, had some great success with that band with Steve Marriott. Decided to leave the band. In fact, shortly after their live album came out, I think Rocking the Fillmore was his last kind of thing with that band, and then he left and went on a solo career. And the album that came out before this live album, Frampton Comes Alive, simply entitled Frampton or Peter Frampton, I think, did okay. It wasn't no great shakes, but this one would definitely change his career. I mean, it went on to sell millions of copies. In fact, I reckon it's probably the biggest selling live album that is from the 70s, and probably one of the biggest of all time. I think the reason being is that you get that live feel when you listen to it. It's almost as if you're there. Some live albums are able to capture that, and some not. Some add too many things to it, so you don't. It gets to sound more like a studio album instead of a live album. But you definitely get that live feel with Frampton Comes Alive. And he also had a great band playing behind him, which I'll get to in a minute, the guys in the band. So it was recorded in June 1975 at the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco. Great place, excellent sound, great audience participation as well, which is what you want with a live album. And it was released on January the 6th, 1976 in the UK, and February the 13th in the US, so there was quite a break between the two release dates. And it spent 10 consecutive weeks at number one. That's pretty good for a live album. I mean, you consider that most albums that stay at the top for any length of time are usually studio albums, but there have been exceptions for live albums, and this is definitely right at the top. So over the years, there have been different editions of this album. I only have the original on CD. I don't have the vinyl. I need to get the vinyl because I would imagine it would sound amazing on vinyl, especially with the new 180 gram or 200 gram vinyl that's being released today. It should sound amazing. So there's a 25th anniversary edition which contains a whole bunch of bonus tracks. And then there's a 35th anniversary edition which is pretty much the same as the 25th, same bonus tracks, except it has one bonus track with Warren Haynes on guitar from Government Mule and the Allman Brothers, and he does a great version of Do You Feel Like We Do, which was that massive hit of Peter Frampton's. So it was number one in the US Billboard charts, the top 200, and it went on to sell, I think up to date, 8 times platinum in the US. That's quite a few million. Gold in the UK and 3 times platinum in Australia. So he's done pretty well with this album. One of the things he wasn't happy about, and it also happened with subsequent studio albums, was the kind of look that the record company were going for, the sort of pretty boy hair, open shirts. And I think it detracted from his musical ability, and he wasn't really happy with that. For Peter Frampton, it's always been about the guitar, the playing, as opposed to the image kind of thing. But, record companies have their way, and managers, and want to steer you in a certain direction, not always for the good of the artist. But nevertheless, it seemed to work on this live album. So let me show you the cover of this, and this would look so much better on vinyl, but let me show you anyway. So the record would come out like this. And that's him playing his Gibson Les Paul there, the black one, which would actually be stolen at the end of one of his tours, one of his concerts. Not too sure how it happened. And he would get it back many years later. In fact, I think about 10 years ago, or maybe less than that. Somebody tried to sell it at a pawn shop, and the guy recognized the guitar. The owner of the pawn shop got hold of Peter and his manager, and he got his guitar back. He was quite chuffed about that because he had a lot of history with this guitar, wrote some great songs on it. So he was really happy to get it back. So who's in the band here? Peter Frampton, guitar, vocals, and talk box, that famous tube thing that he used to talk through that gives you the crazy sounds. A couple of other guitarists have used it, but I think Peter Frampton is probably the best known for doing that. John Siamos on drums, Bob Mayo on guitar, vocals, Fender Rhodes piano, organ and grand piano, Stanley Sheldon, bass guitar and vocals. Produced and arranged by Peter Frampton, so he did all the production work as well on this album. So here we have Stanley Sheldon over there. At the bottom we have Bob Mayo. And on that side there's Peter Frampton, and there's the drummer, John Siamos. So that was the band. Great band, like I said, really tight unit, and good rhythm section, bass and drums. So what are the tracks on here? I mean, there were some massive hits on here. Some which weren't really big, but which actually, because of this live album, would go on to bigger things. Something's Happening, the great kickoff track for the live album. Show Me the Way. I mean, everybody knows Show Me the Way. That's like an iconic song of Peter Frampton's. Wind of Change, Baby I Love Your Way. Some great guitar work. Peter Frampton's, for me, has been an amazing guitarist. He's done some recent blues albums as well, where you can really hear his tone on the guitar. Very sweet player. I Want to Go to the Sun, Lines on My Face, Do You Feel Like We Do, that big hit, and that's the one where he uses the talk box. I'll Give You Money, Shine On, and quite a lengthy version of the Rolling Stones number, Jumping Jack Flash. There's a really good version of that on here. All in all, this is probably a live album that you need to have. It's not overly heavy. It's very melodic. There's some great songs, some great lyrics, great sing-along stuff, which is great for crowds and made for live, especially things like Do You Feel Like We Do and Show Me the Way. So yeah, oops, upside down. There we go. There he is, Peter Frampton, looking all fresh-faced and very young with his open shirt, as I said. And yeah, great album. It's on the A&M Records label. Came out in 1976. Still sounds good today if you put this on. And yeah, like I said, I need to get hold of the vinyl, I think, because that'll have a whole different sound to it. So there we go. Peter Frampton. Next time around, we're going to have a look at another great live album. And probably one of the best hard rock, wouldn't call them metal, hard rock live albums from the 70s, and that'll be Deep Purple's Made in Japan. Another live album that pushed the band even further up and showcased Ritchie Blackmore and Ian Gillan and Roger Glover, Ian Pace and John Lord to the fullest. So I hope you're going to tune in next time. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up down below. That'll be great. Have yourselves a great week, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers.